Image copyright Reuters. Jeremy Hunt has urged Tory MPs to get behind Theresa May, amid a backlash against suggestions the Brexit transition period could be extended. The Foreign Secretary said the great strength of other EU nations was that they had stayed united in the talks, and he urged Tories to do the same. The PM had to maximise her negotiating leverage in Brussels, he added. Scottish Secretary David Mindell has raised concerns about a longer transition period with Number 10, and former leader Ian Duncan Smith said it would see the UK paying the EU tens of billions more. He told BBC's Newsnight he could not understand an extension when the UK still hasn't got anything back in return, and said the negotiations look more like a capitulation. The prominent Brexiteer also claimed the move would see the UK having to pay into the EU's next budget, adding, "It would be very hard to tell the British people that we are extending another year or more into the implementation phase, and we're then going to pay tens of billions of pounds over when we actually say we need it for other domestic programs." But Mr Hunt said it was precisely because Mrs May had not capitulated to EU demands that no agreement had been reached at the European Council summit this week. And he told BBC Radio 4's Today programme, "The great strength of the EU in these negotiations is that the 27 EU nations have remained united. And we now need to do the same behind Theresa May to maximise her negotiating leverage in Brussels." Mrs May will pitch her vision for a post-Brexit UK to Asian leaders later. Meanwhile, ferry firm Stena Line has warned a no-deal Brexit could affect food supplies and sea traders bypass Great Britain. The current plan is for a transition period of 21 months to smooth the path from Brexit to the UK and EU's future permanent relationship. But with the two sides failing to reach a deal yet after an EU summit of all its leaders this week, Mrs May said this arrangement could be extended for a few months, if needed. She also said it could be a further solution to the search for a backstop to ensure no hard border in Ireland, a major sticking point in negotiations. EU Council President Donald Tusk said he was sure EU leaders would be ready to consider an extension positively if the UK wants it. Breaking ranks. The Politics.com website reports that Mr Mindell has become the first cabinet minister to break ranks with his letter to the PM, warning against the extension if it means forcing the UK to continue to abide by EU fishing rules for longer. And in a separate development, Tory MP Johnny Mercer has hit out at the current state of the government, describing it as a shit show. In an interview with the House magazine, the former army officer said he would not have stood as an MP if the situation was like it is now, and that he was no longer sure that his set of values and ethos were still aligned with the Conservative Party. What is the issue? The UK is due to leave the EU on the 29th of March 2019, and the transition period, which Mrs May prefers to call the implementation period, is designed to smooth the path to a future permanent relationship. During this transition period, which is due to finish on the 31st of December 2020, the UK's relationship with the EU will stay largely the same. The UK has signed up to the principle of agreeing an Irish border backstop, an insurance policy designed to prevent the need for customs checks, in case there is a gap between the transition period and the future permanent relationship coming into force. The problem is that the two sides have yet to agree what form the backstop will take, and how long it could last. Please upgrade your browser on Thursday. The plan received condemnation from members of Northern Ireland's Democratic Unionist Party, whose support the government needs in key votes, saying it would not change the fundamental problem with the EU's backstop plan. This is because it involves Northern Ireland staying aligned with EU rules, which the DUP and the UK government says is unacceptable because it creates a new border in the Irish Sea. Media playback is unsupported on your device. Media caption. PM extension would be a matter of months. Brexiteers were also not impressed, with Conservative backbench MP Jacob Rees-Mogg telling Sky News it was a rather poor attempt at kicking the can down the road, and Remainers were unhappy too, with former Minister Nicky Morgan saying an extension would be unhelpful, and would leave the UK in a Brexit holding pattern. Asked earlier whether he would support a longer transition period, Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn said, "The Prime Minister has got herself into this mess by failing to reach any meaningful agreements with the EU.